Okay, I have to add this. Hi everyone. Just trying to get settled here. All right. I'm going to come in a little early. Hi, everyone. Welcome to DC Now Small Biz Takeover. I am today's special guest, Jada Brown, and I serve as the 84th Miss North Carolina Agricultural and Technical State University. So I want to come in and say hello, give everybody some time to get on and pop in a little bit here. And I'm going to try to set some stuff up before we get started here. Make sure we start on time. Hi, everyone. I do want to, before getting started, as we continue with the live, I do want to just make everyone aware to use the question icon on the live. And if you have any questions or anything you want to chime in on the discussion, please feel free to put your questions there. I want to make sure that I get to as many as I can versus it just kind of scrolling up. So I just want to kind of chime in and do that. Let you guys know. Just want to make sure you guys can hear me okay. Can everyone hear me? And I see I have another fellow queen in here and one of my brother kings in here as well. Some of my good peers. So I hope everyone's had a great, fantastic Tuesday. Very excited to be here to take over the Small Biz Takeover for DC Now events. Thank you so much for having me, DC Now. And I want to get started. So for those who are still jumping in and jumping out and everything, once again, my name is Jada Brown. I am the 84th Miss North Carolina Agricultural and Technical State University. I'm a former HBCU Queen. I'm so excited to be here to just talk about what that journey was like to become a HBCU Queen and to just be a leader and a community servant. So I'm excited to talk a little bit about myself and give you some gems today. And a little bit about my background. I attended North Carolina A&T, as I mentioned, and I am a psychology student. I graduated with my bachelor's, and now I'm looking to go on this year, hopefully in the fall, to get my master's in mental health counseling. So I'm really excited in regards to that as well. And just to kind of go into what we're going to discuss today in regards to the bigger topic being becoming an HBCU Queen. My platform was based off of what I like to call the 3 Ps. And so those 3 Ps are purpose, persistence, prosperity. And pretty much just to break that down, the first P being purpose is walking into your purpose. Persistence is maintaining persistence. And in regards to that last P, prosperity, achieving prosperity. So I want to make sure that in regards to talking about how the journey to becoming an HBCU Queen and what that looked like and breaking those things down, I'm also giving some good sound advice about what it looks like to be a leader and those steps and strides that you want to take in order to be an effective leader as well. So I'm excited to get started. So just kind of going into the first P, purpose. And I do have my talking points a little next to me here. So I want to make sure that I'm staying on track and be mindful of time. We got like 30 minutes on here. So I'm excited. And make sure for those who are just popping in that if you have any questions about what's going on or any of the discussion that you once again use the question icon at the bottom of the screen. So getting into the first P, purpose. One of the biggest things that I think a lot of people want to know is who they are, and really figuring out what their why is. So when I think about purpose, I think about what inspires me. I think about the kind of impact that I'm looking to leave. And I'm also thinking about ultimately what people think of me. I think sometimes people kind of ignore what others perceive them as, but if you're really trying to make an impact on other people, you kind of want to know the impression that you're leaving off on them. And sometimes that starts with you identifying your why. And so a little bit about my story in becoming an HBCU Queen. When I first got to A&T, I really was a lost freshman. I didn't know what I wanted to do. I was doing a little bit of modeling. I was on the gospel choir, dancing with them. I did a couple of different things. And I think in regards to just finding my niche and figuring out what I really wanted, I really had to slow down, take a look at myself, and really keep my ear to the ground, is how I like to say it, to know what I did well at, what my strengths were, what my weaknesses were, and also have tough conversations with my accountability partners, my mentors, and my support system to really figure out what is my purpose, like what is my why. And I think some people are still searching to figure out what that is, but some of the ways that, I think I've figured out what was best for me and what my purpose was, which is to be a community servant and to impact others, was to really pay attention to what I do well at. And some of the times I think that we're so busy trying to have our hands in everything that we don't really put enough energy and attention to what we do well at. So sometimes it is important to explore, but once you really want to narrow those things down, really paying attention to your strengths and what you should put more energy into and what things you want to help build your craft at. Those are some of the things that I started to figure out. And I started to realize that I really loved the community. I really loved service projects. I really loved, having my hands in a lot of things, but also mainly having an impact on others. I think one of the biggest things that I learned is that people will forget what you said. People will forget, what you might have even done, but they will always remember how you made them feel. And so that is the root of what I identified my purpose to be, leaving an impressionable, genuine impact on others while still having my hand in service and bringing the next person up with me along the way. And so that is something that I definitely defined within myself. But I also want you all to understand that leadership doesn't always have to be about having the title. So I didn't always have the top dog title on campus. That came much later. I started off doing some of those smaller things, like just being a part of a general body of women and having a leadership role or being on an e-board in a smaller way. First, I was the queen of my small organization called 100 Collegiate Women, and I served as the community service chair on that particular board, which was the queen of that organization. And so I started doing things for the campus and not just my organization. So sometimes when you're put in position, sometimes people go for jobs or they go for a title or a certain position and say, oh, this is so small. This is not what I really want to do. I'm not really sure if this is my area of interest. And they don't realize that you could take that little thing and you can really expound on that and really advocate for whatever it is, that little task. And so I began to realize that I didn't want to overlook the little task that I was being given, because it really turned out into so much more, because in those little roles and those little tasks that I had such a huge impact. And sometimes it can even go into now being in adulthood. I relocated to the DMV area. I'm originally from Columbia, South Carolina. And I went to school in North Carolina, so I just kind of kept moving up the East Coast. And I was like, wow, I'm not in my field. I'm a psychology student. How am I going to fulfill this purpose of wanting to be in mental health doing something in an educational technology company? Because that's where I currently work and what I do. And I work in their student engagement department. But I had to realize that some of the small professional skills that I'm getting now, I can apply futuristically to my counselor job that I hope to one day have when I become a licensed therapist. So some of the things that we overlook, even if that means taking that pay cut. If you are really following what's inspiring you, what your purpose is, everything will fall in line. And I think that's some of the biggest things that we often forget, that those little things definitely add up, and we definitely want to celebrate the small wins when it comes to what you're trying to do. So it started for me as a small organization queen, but I did bigger things to impact my campus, like doing a King Appreciation thing and making sure that I touch another gender and just not advocated towards the women on my campus. And also talking to those different groups. Some people are a little bit more of an introvert. Some people are extroverts. Some people come to all of the outdoor events. Some people do more closed off things. So making sure that if you really want to reach the people and you really want to advocate in a major way, that you're not being closed-minded, but you're still doing things that meet your purpose in identifying who you are and your why. So I definitely wanted to drop a little bit about what you could do to identify the purpose, identify your purpose, asking yourself those tough questions about what you want to do, who you are, and the impact that you want to leave. And I think over the pandemic, that's some of the extra time that we've had to ourselves that we've really been able to utilize to kind of identify what those things are. So that's the first P, purpose. And for those who are just tuning in, I want to just reintroduce myself. I am Jada Brown. I serve as the 84th Miss North Carolina Agricultural and Technical State University. I'm a former HBCU Queen, and this talk is just about how I got into leadership, how I became an HBCU Queen, and my topic I just went over was purpose. And so I wanted to definitely talk about identifying your why and how to align yourself and your purpose and keep that going. But the next thing I want to bring up is persistence. Persistence is something that once you identify the purpose, that's the first thing. You identify the why, you know what it is you want to do, you ask yourself those tough questions, you talk to your accountability partners, you make the tangible goals for yourself, and then it's like, okay, how do I go about doing this? And so when you get to the persistence part of it, you really have to identify what you want to do first. Doing things in decency and in order. And sometimes we're so scatterbrained, we skip all around. We don't really know what we want to do first. And when I attack the role of trying to become bigger or make a bigger impact on my campus, I should say, I realized that I couldn't do it all by myself. There's no I in team. And that surely rang true for me around the time that I started to identify my purpose, because I really was lost. Like, what am I going to do with this? Can I do this? I'm hesitant and I'm not sure about how to persevere through the doubts, the hesitations, the haters, the naysayers. All of those things are a part of this second P. All of those things are about persistence. So when it comes to that next part, having the endurance, having the determination that you need to propel yourself forward and to leave a lasting impact. If you call yourself a leader and people are looking up to you, people that you don't even know are watching you, it's very important for you to recognize that they're feeding off of your energy. They're looking to you to make the next move. They're looking to you to identify what they want to do and how they can help. And sometimes the best leader that you can be is leading by example, by making sure that you're bringing the next person up. Being sure that you're delegating tasks to other people, because if you want to talk about being a servant, if you want to talk about a sense of community, you really want to delegate things to other people so they too can realize their light. They too can realize that they have a place and a platform to shine as well, so that they can walk into the path and the footsteps that you might have planted before them, so they too can become a leader as well. And sometimes, even in being persistent, you have to take some L's. And some people don't want to talk about failure, but that's the bigger part of that conversation sometimes, is to identify that you will have some losses And sometimes you even may have a setback. And the person who triumphs over those things are usually the people who will win in the end. And so on my journey to becoming an HBCU queen, when we're talking about that persistence, I had to maintain that throughout my campaign, throughout doing pageantry, and just the road to becoming the HBCU queen. So a lot of people don't know on HBCU campuses how you ultimately get to that title. And so you want to have the background and you want to have the platform and all those things, the pretty pictures and the pretty face. But the job itself is really tough. In everybody's reign and everybody's time period of being queen is very unique to them. And you have to really be attentive and have your ear to the ground about what is the niche and what is the need of your community and your campus or whatever you're serving at that time as a leader. So it's very important that you're persistent in all the things that you do and that you're putting yourself in front of. So if I decided, hey, I want to be Miss A&T, and this was a very last minute decision for me. This was not something I just knew I was going to do. I ran away from the idea of being queen at my school. So many other people around me, so many of my accountability partners had been in my ear telling me, this is your role. This is for you. And I just didn't see it at first. But it took some time. It took me taking a lot of L's and me persevering through those things for me to wake up and realize the leader and the queen that I truly was. And so had it not been for those experiences and those failures or those experiences that didn't go the way that I thought they would have gone, I wouldn't be able to be an example to those people I represent. And I also would not have been able to accomplish half of the things that I was able to truly accomplish throughout my time in undergrad. So in regards to just talking about a couple of things, in persistency, you want to be a good sport. You want to be a good sport when things don't go your way. You want to go back to the drawing board and say, okay, this didn't work out this way. Let me use my resources. Let me use my network. Who can I call on? Who should I call that can give me more insight on something so I can do a better job the next time? So a great leader and a queen at that, HBCU queen, we go through a lot. So the first go round, the first proposal, the first service initiative, or the first idea that you have usually doesn't go completely the way you imagine that it would go. And so when you are, going through those trials and tribulations, still having that willingness to serve, still using those failures as your fuel to continue to move forward and propel you forward, and also realizing that you have to delegate certain things to other people and lean on your network and your resources. It's definitely important for you to delegate as much as you can, because as a real leader understands that it is not all about you. It's really not. It's about making the impact. It's not about you being in front. It's not about you being the person. You're just the liaison between the people that you're serving and the resources that you're utilizing and making the impact that you're trying to make. So be sure that you're willing, when you are in leadership roles, when you are trying to be an HBCU queen, when you are trying to be an HBCU king in your own right, whatever that looks like, understand that your reign, that your leadership title of whatever it is truly yours to take on, and that you're truly willing to do the work. Being persistent is all about doing the work. If you're coming because you want an easy time, if you're coming into play because you just want to showcase something so people can know who you are, people are going to know who you are by your work that you do and the impact that you leave. And so if you're being a good sport, if you're utilizing your network, if you're delegating tasks to other people, realizing that there's no I in team and that you will have to lean on your resources, you'll be a much better you'll have a much better impact on what you're trying to do and the people that you're trying to impress. and the people that you are trying to help propel their lives forward and activate their purpose. So for those who are just popping in, I do want to reintroduce myself. The conversation we're having today is about becoming an HBCU Queen, but taking a little bit more of a focus on leadership as well and activating the 3 Ps. So I did just briefly talk about purpose earlier, and I talked and touched on identifying your why and really trying to activate that and stay in line with your purpose. And then another thing that I just touched on as well was being persistent. Excuse me, y'all. Being persistent in activating that and maintaining your persistence. And sometimes even when things don't go the way you think they should, even right now while we're on this live, you just got to persevere through it and be persistent. So I want to make sure that we move on to the next topic. And that final thing that we are hoping to get to would be prosperity. And I think we have a couple of questions coming in as well. So I want to just touch on a couple of things. Outside of your involvement with campus organizations and your reign, when did you realize you were a leader? And who are some of the role models that I have? So outside of my involvement with campus and organizations, I realized that I was a leader when I did, someone randomly got on social media at one point and they did a Jada and me. And it really touched me because people started just kind of talking about the impact that I had on them, how genuine I was. And sometimes I really just thought I was invisible, just to be quite frankly honest. And this just goes to show that the little things that you do, the little blessings that you bestow on other people, it comes back tenfold for one. And also, when people do the groundwork for you, when other people are your mouthpiece, that's when you know that you've truly had a genuine impact on others and that you're a leader. Leadership is not something that you just get written out as a title, here you go. To be a real leader, it's ordained. It's given without you really asking for it. And so when people are your feet for you and they send your message across for you, that's when you truly know that you've activated your leadership. And so I want to make sure that I'm tapping into one more question. Okay, this is another question. Did you ever have a setback? Absolutely. And that goes back to, for those who are just jumping in, once again, my name is Jada Brown. I'm Miss North Carolina A&T. I'm a former HBCU Queen. I was the 84th Queen. And I've had several setbacks. It was a lot of things, the proposals that I had wanted to do as far as service initiatives that I was told no to. The need at the time during my reign was the food desert that Greensboro, North Carolina was in. So my board wanted to make sure that we was meeting that need. And so I focused in and went back to the drawing board and focused in on homelessness and making sure that I was feeding people and doing things like that. So the food desert that we were in, the entire campus, started to activate that. And even my court, they had their own initiatives and some big initiatives as well, like Food Line Feeds and getting involved in those things and making sure that we're feeding those who are in need. And also right there on our campus, having the food pantry. My institution now has a food pantry that not only the community can utilize, but students. Sometimes your students don't even have food to eat. So those are some of the things that we have done and that we still see going on beyond my reign as well on the campus. But I came in thinking that I was going to do all these other things as queen. And so it was a setback to sit down with advisors and your board and realize like, hey, this is the need right now. So this is what we need you to do. We need you to switch gears. And a great leader and a great queen is very flexible. So how I decided to overcome that was keep my ear to the ground, be open-minded, and go back to the drawing board and making sure that I'm setting myself up for what is the need at the time as the leader. So I want to make sure that I answered that question. But to get into that last P, we talked about purpose, we talked about being persistent, and now we're going to talk about prosperity. And this is something I really love because this is the good stuff. This is the stuff we all want to get to so bad. And you really have to define what success is to you, because it looks different for everybody. It truly does. And you set the goal, you have your purpose, you activated that, you've worked hard, you have your work ethic, you're determined, you don't let the failures deter you from the mission, and then you want to come out on top. You want to be successful, you want to prosper in the things that you set out to do. And success looks different for everybody. You know, you have a goal, you want to work towards it, but you have to understand that it's okay that if your initial goal that you have, if you don't reach that, because there are so many wins that come in between getting to the final end goal that we oftentimes overlook, and that's success. Being able to propel forward through the failures, sometimes that is success. Sometimes the end goal not happening till long after your reign is success. It was a lot of things that I didn't want the queens after me to go through, that I advocated for in private with administration, with my board, that I saw the next year happen. So sometimes you have to understand, even in leadership, that everything is not going to go your way right then and there, and that being a queen, sometimes realizing that there is a legacy to this, and that if anything, you want your legacy in the generations after you to be what speaks for the work that you've done while you were the title holder and while you were in your reign. And sometimes people forget that you have to really activate what's happening right then and there. And the legacy aspect of that really propels forward once you realize that success is not the goal. Making the impact is what success is. Leaving an impression on people that is going to go way beyond your reign is what success looks like. That's what prosperity is all about. Genuinely serving those, meeting the need of the community, and making that impact. And as far as something else I would like to touch on in regards to success for my reign as Miss North Carolina A&T, I thought that it was going to be a lot of other things that I did at the time. But truly, the biggest thing that I admired about my reign was being able to bring up another HBCU. To know that a neighboring all-women's HBCU was possibly losing their accreditation at the time, and making sure that I brought light to that and I didn't ignore that, being that the school was so close by, Bennett College. I saw another queen, my sister queen. When you see another queen's crown tilted, you make sure you go fix it. And that was some of the biggest things that was going on at the time during my reign that I wanted to make sure that I was an advocate for. Because if you say you represent your HBCU, you're representing them all. And as a queen, to see that Bennett College was facing a tragedy, a situation that almost slipped through their fingers and they didn't have any control over, and that I could do something to bring light to that so they could possibly keep their doors open. That is what success looked like to me at that time. That was the need for my community at that time. And so being that that was something that was happening next door, I know my school was very big on this ebony competition and everything like that. I decided to say, you know what, A&T, I'm pulling out of this competition. There's a need that's far bigger than me, far bigger than our institution, that is right next door that needs our help. And so that was the most successful thing. Who knew that during my reign, that's something that I was going to be doing. And so that final P being prosperity, that's prospering, that's impact, that's service, that's that's doing something that's bigger than you, which is what being an HBCU queen is all about. And I think sometimes people forget that you really have to keep your ear to the ground, because I think we get so caught up in the glam of things, in the title and the hype, but we see celebrities and we see all these things, and people get their flowers in a different way, and they realize that that's what you want, but ultimately what you really want is to make a genuine impact and to bring the person next to you up. And that was one of the things that was really big for me, that inspired me throughout my reign, that I wanted to. And Brooke is in here, my sister queen, Miss Bennett. I see Miss FAMU in here as well. That was one of the biggest things of my reign that I couldn't even imagine that I would do. And to see that I helped, didn't do it all, but to just know that I can make phone calls and I can send out letters and I could do whatever that I could do to help keep another HBCU open, that's service. That's impact. And when you're serving in any leadership capacity, in any role, whether it was what you thought you were going to do, I thought I was going to do all these women's conferences and stuff, it didn't matter, because I did something far more greater than I could even imagine coming into this title. And so making sure that you're leaning on other people, that you are using your resources, and making sure you're keeping your ear to the ground, and that you're being genuine in everything that you do, that is what prosperity looks like. And so I really want to make sure that I threw that in there. I know we're coming up on towards the end of it, and so we have like 10 more minutes I want to extend it to, and I want to see if I have a little bit of questions out here. If you guys have any other questions, please feel free to pop in. Once again, my name is Jada Brown. I want to reintroduce myself. We discussed becoming an HBCU queen here on the DC Now platform. And the 3 P's were purpose, identifying your why, and aligning your purpose. Persistence, maintaining persistence, being dedicated and enduring through all things, whether you fail or have any shortcomings or setbacks, making sure you continue to utilize your resources and delegate. And also prosperity, really tying that in at the end, making sure that you're being genuine and that success looks different for everybody, and those small wins definitely count, and that you definitely want to look forward to actually leaving an impression and a genuine impact on others, because that's what true success looks like. And so I kind of wanted to wrap that up there, but I do want to kind of go into the question box here, because I do see I have a couple of questions here. And then this is a good question. So how do you deal with negativity? You know what? That's a great question, because sometimes I think I struggle with dealing with negativity, even now as an adult, way after being an HBCU queen. But during my reign, the best thing that I could do was surround myself with positive people, make sure that I have my accountability partners and my mentors and those people who, my village, those people who do believe in me, who want to see me win, to change that mindset. Making sure that you feed yourself with the proper things, whether that's gospel music in the morning, for me personally, or whether that's changing your mindset, your outlook, looking for the positive outcome and everything, trying to find the light in the situation, because you didn't have to, whatever the situation is, you didn't have to have the opportunity to be faced with that at that moment. And so you get the opportunity to challenge yourself and your thinking in that very moment. You get the opportunity to change the narrative. So when you're faced with negativity, try to find the light in the situation. And if you don't know how to find the light in the situation, go lean on those people that are placed in your life that you are accountable for, and that you're connected to try to help you change the narrative. Because at the end of the day, one of the biggest things that I'm learning, and I'm still learning to this day, is that you are the captain of your own ship. This thing right here is completely up to you how you utilize it. So you can't point the finger when things don't go your way. You can't point the finger when your mindset or the outcome is a negative outcome, because at the end of the day, you control your thinking, and you want to make sure that you have that self-control and that power over your own mind. And that's one thing that no one can take away from you, is your thoughts. how you feel about yourself and the impact that you're trying to leave. So I definitely wanted to answer that question. And let's see what else we have there. If you guys want to ask any questions, I'm going to wrap this up around 8:10. I just want to extend it a little longer. You can definitely drop those into the question box. So this is a good question as well. How important was networking on your journey, and what were some of the measures you took to do so? Networking is very important. I'm realizing it's even more important in the DMV, even being invited here for the DC Now events platform. You definitely want to utilize your network and your resources, because you don't know when you would need to reach back into that for things like running for Miss A&T. If I wasn't everything that I could be to my campus at that time, I would have not had the backing and the population necessary who believed in me to reign in the way that I have been able to do so. And have the backing behind when I wanted to advocate for Bennett College and them keeping their doors open. So utilizing that network is very important. And on my journey, some of the things that I did to activate the network was staying involved. That little networking event or that little organization that's hosting things, or even being in a pandemic, getting on people's lives and supporting people's businesses and stuff. Sometimes it takes you extending your hand to others, and then you'll get 10 more hands extended back to you. So being sure that you identify what you want your network to be, the type of people you want to be connected to, the things and goals that you have for yourself, but also realizing that it's going to take some work ethic from you and you extending your hands to some other people, so then God can touch you in the same way. So that is definitely how I activated mine. Those groups that are overlooked oftentimes are the very groups that you should not be overlooking. And so I want to make sure that I always advocate for those little people in the room that, everybody wants to get next to the celebrity. But the people that I was looking for, the people that I cared about, those were the people who were indoors, who didn't want to come out, who didn't know their reasons for living, who didn't know their purpose, didn't know why they wanted to be here. Those are the people that I wanted to touch and that I wanted to know. And those are the people to this day who are still a part of my circle, who have believed in me, who have supported me, and who have helped me in so many ways that you cannot imagine. So your network is your net worth, honey. Let's see, what other questions do we have in here? How did you know who was really in your corner? This is a great question. I know we have about 5 more minutes. The reality is, you don't. I know people are probably a little shocked by that being my answer, but how do you know who was really in your corner? You have those people who believe in you, you have your support system. And don't get me wrong, you have your village and you have those people that you do know who are really looking for you to do well and have your best interests at heart. However, at the time that I was running to be a HBCU Queen, I realized that some of the people that I thought might have been there for me or were supporting me really weren't. And that's okay, because those people are necessary. So I don't think in being a leader that you really want to focus on who's in your corner. Your focus should always be the impact and the work that you're trying to do. So the people that are supposed to be in line with you, the people who are going to be on that path with you, it's going to come so naturally. It's going to be people that are falling out the sky, who are just extending their hand looking to help you, because I didn't have a campaign team. I didn't have this posse or group like some girls had, like these people backing them. I didn't have any of those things when I first got into this. And so the way that God works is he just says, focus on the work, focus on the message. And some of the times I think we're so focused on who's got my back, who's supporting me, that we miss out on doing the work. And your goal, your purpose, and being in line and being persistent is doing the work, making an impact, and being a servant and being a leader in that, right? And so once you do those things, those people who are like-minded, those people who are in your corner, those people who are supporting you, they're going to fall in line. So I would never want to advocate a message where in leadership or being an HBCU Queen at that, that you should focus on who's in your corner. You should identify and eliminate those who are not helping you propel forward. That's definitely what you should do. You should definitely eliminate those weeds in the grass, because all they do is cause problems. So definitely want to get rid of those, but definitely don't let that deter you from the goal at hand, the message that you're trying to spread, and the impact that you're trying to make. So I definitely wanted to touch on that. That was a great question. And I know we're coming up on the final time here. And once again, my name is Jada Brown. I've served as the 84th Miss North Carolina A&T State University. And I want to make sure that I reintroduce myself in case for those who are just popping in. But this last question I'm going to follow up with is, at what moment did you realize that being Miss A&T was your destiny or your purpose? Well, I have to attribute this to my grandmother, who is no longer here with us. I was actually told before I attended A&T that I would be Miss A&T. And the alumni who told me that, I just looked at them like, what are you talking about? I don't want to do that. I don't even know who Miss A&T is. And they recognized the queen in me before I did. And so to hear that before you even step foot on a campus is a little strange. Like, people are trying to tell you what you're going to do before you get to college. So I'm going to do what I want to do when I go to college. But once I got to college, you know, God is really funny. He'll keep bringing it up. And so everyone that I touched, people that I didn't know, they kept calling me this name, like Queen. So then I did the first thing, and I decided that I would do something small. I was like, I'm not quite ready yet. So I did something small, but still impactful. But the impact was so great in having a small title that I soon outgrew that title. And so I ignored what people kept telling me, which was that I was going to be Miss A&T. And eventually, my grandmother came to me in my dream. And my grandmother sat down with me in my dream, and she pretty much told me that, young lady, you have so much more to do. And even though I'm no longer physically here with you, I'm still here. And you are the queen that you have always been since you were a little girl. And I'm ready to see you put that into practice and to make me proud. And so that was the thing that topped it all off for me. And that's when I realized that I've been running for so long. And the good thing about when you run, eventually you can't run anymore. You can't run away from your purpose. And that's a story I haven't really shared a lot, but I submitted that application the night it was due. I almost missed it. Had I not took a nap and my grandmother came and told me, this is something that you need to be doing and I want to see you put into practice and you need to do it now, I wouldn't have been an HBCU Queen. So I'm so grateful for the legacy that I've left behind. I'm so grateful for the women that have come before me. And I'm so happy that I did activate my purpose in that time. And once again, I want to thank everyone for coming in and hearing me talk about my platform, Purpose, Persistence, Prosperity. Thank you, DC Now Events, for having me. We do have to close off. We've come to the conclusion of the live, but I love you all so much. And make sure, if you want to keep up with me, that you follow me on my personal page. It's at the bottom, tagged pin in the comment, Miss_Jada Baby. And I'm looking forward to continue to work with DC Now. And thank you so much for having me. You guys have a wonderful night and stay safe out here. Bye.